Good afternoon, everybody. Tracy Di Bartolo, Thermomix consultant here. I'm actually going to start cooking straight away and then I'll start talking. So I am going to just put in, this will be the cheesy bechamel that I'm doing. I want to show you how to cook this and then I'll show you the other elements. So the recipe says just to put a mixture of 50 to 70 grams of any kind of cheese that you want. So I usually use a bit of a mixture of some tasty cheese or some mozzarella, parmesan, etc. Now I'm actually going to do more than the 70 grams, so I'm going to up the time to 7 seconds. Keep the speed at 7 seconds, so it will be a little bit loud. So with this recipe, the idea is you just do your small amount of cheese for the cheesy bechamel, and then you just continue. But I always figure if I'm doing something like cheese, for instance, I'll always do an extra amount. So I'm going to tip all of that out into there. Some of this I'm going to use to go onto the top of my lasagna as I'm making the layers. And then I'm going to leave a small amount in there, so that will be roughly the 50 to 70 grams. It's quite forgiving, you know, it doesn't really matter if you've got more. Okay, setting that aside. So 40 grams of butter, just trying to do this quickly, otherwise I'm going to be keeping you all too long. And then 500 grams of milk, which I have pre-weighed. Use any type of milk that you want. I use all sorts, skim milk, full cream, lactose, just really whatever I have on hand, and I've never ever had a problem. 40 grams of plain flour, in all goes, and then a little bit of salt and also some pepper. So I'm just going to show you, like that looks really messy, doesn't it? It's just, everything just bunged in there together. That's the technical word for it, bunged in there. It also says nutmeg, not a fan of nutmeg, so I just leave it. And then the Thermomix just asks us to turn the speed, the dial, the silver dial, and it's going to work out based on how much is in there, and it will automatically go into thickening mode for us. So we don't have to think about it, the machine does all the thinking, and at the end of it you'll have beautiful thick bechamel sauce. Okay. Now, I'm just going to very carefully lift and move back my machine just a bit. You see how I lift it and then move it back? We must never ever drag our machines. We all know that. I'm sure of it. All right, so traditional lasagna. Traditional is one of those words that can mean so many different things, because tradition in one part of Italy and tradition in another part of Italy could be completely different. Even family to family. I, as you know, am not actually Italian, but I'm just married to one for 37 years. So I've been taught by my beautiful mother-in-law how to make a lovely lasagna. She's got her own spin on things. I kind of adapted that, and now I've got what is my traditional lasagna. And Ian loves it. Lucas, my son, I know he absolutely loves it as well. So I'm going to share it with you, and then you can take this and adapt it to your own needs. It's very flexible, is the old lasagna. Okay, so there are 4 elements that we make to make up a good lasagna. The first one is obviously the pasta sheets. Up to you whether you make it in your Thermomix or not. If you've got time, then definitely do it, because it really does make a sensational lasagna. If you can't, then try and buy the fresh lasagna sheets rather than the ones that are in the boxes. And then my third choice would be just have some that are in the boxes, because if you want to make it on the spur of the moment, then at least you've got something. Okay, I've got time at the moment with lockdown, so I am making my own, and I'm just checking. It's called fresh pasta dough. It's one of the basic cookbook recipes, so you'll all be able to find it easily. So I'm not going to actually show you how to make the pasta, because if you give it a try yourself, especially if you have a TM6, there are now videos incorporated into the TM6, which is mind-blowing. So as you go through the steps, you press the play button and it actually plays a little video of how it should look when it's first kneaded, how you should roll it out, all of the different types. So it gives you instructions on how to do lasagna sheets, ravioli, tagliatelle, or farfalle. Farfalle is those little bow tie ones. They're quite cute. So you can watch a video on your machine. I mean, it's just like get out. If you don't have a TM6, then you could probably just YouTube it. That's easy. So I have made one batch, which is only 200 grams of flour, a couple of eggs, a little bit of oil. Machine does the rest. Then we put it into a bowl. I then divide the ball into 4 pieces, and then each of those I cut into 4, because I know that with the dish that I have, so the dish size I use is about 35 by 22. I figure if you're going to make lasagna, make a lasagna. It's great that night that you make it. It's even better the next day. If I've really got too much, I freeze it. But I also usually do a delivery to my dad and sometimes to Lucas as well if he's been a good boy. Okay, so I just do it into small pieces like that and then press it out, and then I start rolling it through my pasta machine. So if you don't have a pasta machine, it's no big deal. You can just roll it out yourself. Make sure it's very well floured, but having a pasta machine just to roll it out does make it a much quicker process. I highly recommend it. They're not that expensive, and even if you only use it 2 or 3 times a year, honestly, it's so worth it because the pasta is beautiful. Anyway, that's up to you. So that's what I do. So a quarter of a bowl, and then a quarter I do into quarters. So I will just put that aside because I've got some here that I've already rolled out just to show you, and they're very rustic. Okay, that's don't get too hung up on that it's not a beautiful perfect rectangle. It doesn't really matter. So that is a little bit about the pasta. All right, now I'm going to talk to you about the pasta sauce. So with my traditional pasta sauce, I have 2 different types. First one is made using the tomato pasta sauce recipe. Again, basic cookbook, so it's all very simple. And you can either use fresh tomatoes, which is what I've used in here, because I've got access to fresh tomatoes. If you don't have fresh tomatoes, no big deal. Just use tin tomatoes. Honestly, they come out just as nice. My one little extra thing I do, I just follow the basic recipe of tomato pasta sauce. But what I do is I add a tablespoon of paprika. So just the sweet Hungarian paprika, not the smoky one. And what I find is that it gives the sauce a beautiful, rich red colour. It doesn't really add anything different to the taste, not really. It's not spicy or anything like that, but it just gives it something, and I always feel that it's a much nicer sauce. So follow the basic recipe, chuck in a little bit of paprika, and you'll see the difference. I always put sugar in my tomato pasta sauce because that helps with the acidity of the tomatoes. How much you put in is up to you. I just follow the recipe. Always a little bit of salt as well. If you've got fresh basil, excellent, pop it in. If not, dried herbs is fine, even that dried Italian herb mix. Okay, so let's see if I can bring in my dish that I've got prepared here. Hoping you can all see that. So the first thing that I do when I assemble my lasagna is I put a very thin sort of coating on the bottom. So I haven't bothered to grease the dish at all. I just have never bothered. And this is a nice Maxwell Williams one, and it seems to clean up really well. Okay, so just a bit of a smattering of sauce like that. Then the next step is to put your first layer of your pasta. Now, I haven't measured this out or anything like that, so what I do is I just place it in there. That actually fits okay. if I've got a piece and I think, oh, that's a little bit too long, I just get a pair of scissors and just chop off that little bit of extra pasta and then pop it in somewhere else. Just like we would with the ones from the box, like the dried, you kind of have to snap them and get them to fit. No different. All right, and then this piece can go in there. Lovely. All right, so that is my first layer of pasta sheets. Then what I will do is I will put my next layer, and instead of using the tomato, just plain tomato first, I cook up a batch of the beef ragu. Hopefully you can see that in there, and I will. So again, in my traditional world of lasagna, I actually am not a fan of mince. Personal preference, just me. I think it's the texture. That's fine. So what I do instead of using mince, I buy a nice piece of top side. I cut it finely against the grain. Now this is really important. I won't show you how to do it now. I did it yesterday. But if you Google it, just Google how do I cut against the grain. There's some great stuff on YouTube, and it's really important because this is how you'll get that beautiful melt in your mouth piece of meat. Okay, so then I just follow the beef ragu recipe on Cookie Dough. These are all on Cookie Dough, everything that I'm doing today. All right, so in now goes a layer of my beef ragu. Okay. All right. Cool. If you can hear any beeping in the background, that's just my bread that I put in to cook, which I might show you if I think it looks okay. All right. As you can see, I'm picking out little pieces of my bay leaf. All right. If you see them, I pick them out. If you don't see them, you can just warn people that, hey, you might have a bit of bay leaf in your lasagna. That's okay. All right. The next step is I am going to be putting in some of this extra cheese. I always put extra cheese. I know it's very decadent. This is not a healthy version of lasagna, but it's good and wholesome. And that's all that matters, isn't it? All right, so a little sprinkle of that, if you can all see. Yep. And just another little touch of the tomato pasta sauce, filling in the little gaps where the meat sort of hasn't quite covered everything. Okay. Perfect. And then I'm hoping this is going to be ready. It's looking pretty ready to me. It says on the clock that I've got a minute to go, but because, you know, we're on a time frame here, I'm actually going to just stop it, and I will show you what the bechamel, cheesy bechamel looks like. You will never make an easier bechamel sauce, ever. Look at that. Beautiful. All right, so now I don't like to have too many thick bits of bechamel. And you can also make this in advance if you want. Actually, a word about in advance. What I love about making lasagna is I can think to myself a couple of days ago, yeah, I might be making lasagna in the next few days. So one day I could do the beef ragu, and the next day I could do the tomato sauce. And then on the day that I'm making it, which is exactly what I did today, I made up the pasta and also the bechamel, and then just put it all together. So you can have at least a couple of these elements done and sitting in the fridge waiting for you until you are ready. There's my oven. Hang five, everyone. Oh yeah, it's looking all right. I'm going to show you. Right. Okay. Stop it. Get out of here. Look at that bread tin. So this is a shop bread tin, of course, which until the end of July is a gift with purchase. If you purchase a Thermomix, a along with one of the mats, which I'll show you properly afterwards. This is hot. I'm just going to put it down. Okay. Right. That's just a little bit of an aside. Okay, back to it. So what have we got? We've got a thin layer of tomato, then we put the pasta sheets on, the beef, ragu, a little bit more of the tomato, and then the cheese and the bechamel. So now we start again with another layer. So I've got some more here, ready to go. Just layer it on and cut if you think you need to cut. Overlap if you think you need to overlap. With fresh sheets, it honestly doesn't matter too much. You can overlap if you need. Right, now some ragu. This ragu recipe is actually designed to be eaten with your choice of pasta, so spaghetti or whatever it is. Okay, what's Deb Percy got? Yes, over a couple of days, you're right. And what's even better is if you make your lasagna one day, try really hard not to eat it that night and then eat it the next day. That's actually never really happened in my household because I'm busting to eat it, but I think it tastes much, much better the next day. Okay, so there is our ragu. Do I need a little bit more tomato? Yes, I think I do. Just a little bit in between the bits I've missed. Excellent. Layer upon layer. So honestly, I could just keep doing this, guys, and really that is all there is to it. I will just keep going and you guys just hang around if you want to. Bechamel. You can see that the bechamel is actually getting a little bit thicker as I'm going along. So that would be my only thing. Make the bechamel as you are about to cook your lasagna. It's not best to make this too much in advance. You can make it maybe half an hour in advance, but bear in mind that it will get quite a bit thicker as you are doing your layering, even from when you started. All right, and another layer. I might run out of layers here because I only did enough, I thought, for 2, but I think I'm going to get 3. And usually one batch of pasta dough, you kind of don't think that it's going to be enough when you first look at it. No, that's it, I'm out. You don't think it's going to be enough, but it will be because I've still got half of my pasta left. So that was 1/4 and then this is another 1/4. So I'm going to go and do a little bit more, make a few more pasta sheets, and then I'll just keep on going. I really just want to show you all of the elements, how you actually build it, and then the only other thing is at the end, when you're doing your final layer, I always make sure that there is a nice layer of the bechamel and the cheese on top. So that's how it should end up whenever you're doing all of your layers. Make sure that you've got your bechamel and your grated cheese sitting on top. Then I pop it in the oven, a dish like this. I put it on a 180. To begin with, I'll put some foil over the top and I spray my foil on the underside because as it cooks and bubbles, it will start to stick. So just give it a bit of a spray or a wipe with some oil of your choice. Put on your alfoil, pop it in the oven. I cook it for a good 45 minutes and then I take the alfoil off and then keep cooking it maybe for another 10 or 15 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. You don't want it to burn, but it's kind of nice to get those little almost burnt bits. Again, personal choice. My late father-in-law, that was his favourite thing. He used to love the little burnt pieces, bless his heart. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to go. I'm done. I hope you all enjoyed it. Give me a thumbs up or a heart or a comment, anything, because it's really nice to know who's out there, who's watching. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments and I will go back and have a look and answer anything you want. So remember, if you haven't got yourself a Thermomix yet, firstly, what are you thinking? Like, it's just the best thing ever. You will use it every day. I have 2, as you can see, and I use them both with all honesty every day to do everything. I don't use my cooktop at all. That's just, I prefer to cook in the Thermomix. It does everything that I want to do. My husband's got a beautiful barbecue outside, so that's what we use if we have to. And of course I use my oven, and I've got a little air fryer as well, but it's more like an oven. So, but the Thermomix is my predominant cooking appliance of choice. So this month, until the end of July, you've got a choice of 2 different gift with purchase. One is the bread tin that you just saw, and it also comes with the mat, the thermo mat, which I use for all my breads and doughs and everything. Now that is while stocks last and or until the end of July. But you can also choose right now to get a copy of the new cookbook, which is this beautiful cookbook. It's the 20th anniversary. Honestly, I'm not really a big cookbook person, and I've got quite a lot of the Thermomix books, and you know, they're okay, they're good, but this is fascinating. It's got lots of lovely stories in there about Thermomix, about Grace, who started the business, and it gives you a real sense of how important this is for her. She's doing it for the right reasons, because she wants to make everybody's life easier, and having a Thermomix does that, especially having a TM6 where you're connected to Wi-Fi and you can pull down as many recipes as you want, just like that. So you get this, that's a choice, and with the cookbook you also get the thermo server as well. So the thermo servers is a money can't buy object. You can only get it as a host reward or as a gift with purchase, which you do, and this gift with purchase has already started and it will continue for the whole month of August. So give me a call, send me a message on Facebook. You can even click shop now if you want, and I'll see your order come through, and then I'll ring you and we chat, and we can change your life forever with your new TM6. All right, I'm going to go now and finish off my pasta. Have a great day, especially everyone who's in lockdown, wherever it is you are. Please stay safe, stay home, all that stuff. All right, mwah. Bye everyone.